what has been changed in the bill. First, let's take a look at the 10 big changes brought by this bill and what changes from the 1995 amendment. In fact, I'm going to go over to the big screen and show you what are some of the changes that will be instituted in this particular amendment. Of course, the new name is Waqf Act 1995 has been renamed as Ummeed, which is United Waqf Management, Empowerment, Efficiency and Development Act 1995, and this is the number one change that we are talking about. There are of course stricter rules for declaring Waqf properties. Only a Muslim individual who has actively followed Islam for at least 5 years can declare a property as Waqf property. This was something which was not taking place in the past, and that's why this amendment is very important. Waqf by user concept eliminated. Religious property cannot automatically become Waqf based on purpose. It has to have the proper paper, it has to have the proper lineage, it also has to have the proper propriety. Any property previously owned by the government and mistakenly recorded as Waqf will be restored. This is something which of course has happened multiple times in the past. District collector will investigate if any dispute arises over property ownership. This is also a big change which is being proposed in this amendment. The Waqf board can no longer decide whether a property should be classified as Waqf. There is going to be a team of people, a committee which is going to decide whether this is something that can be done. The district collector will now oversee the survey of Waqf properties. It used to be done randomly, it was done arbitrarily. That will change. Union Minister for Waqf will continue to serve as the head of this committee as well as this Waqf council. The MPs, former judges and other experts no longer require Muslim identity. That used to be the criteria, and obviously that has been done away with. Representatives from Muslim organizations, Islamic scholars and Waqf board chairpersons must be Muslims. They will be a part of this committee, but only to a certain capacity based on religion. At least 2 Muslim women must be part of the council, which was something which was not allowed, and this is obviously a part of the government's push towards inclusivity as well. State governments will appoint members to the Waqf board. So obviously the role of the government is also going to be very, very important here. The big change, each board must include at least 2 non-Muslim members as well. This is going to be important just to make sure that the changes and the recommendations by the Waqf are not arbitrary. Representation is required from Shia, Sunni, backward Muslim communities as well, which was not being done in the past. If Bohra and Aga Khani communities hold Waqf properties in a state, they will have 1 representative each as well. This was also something which was not being followed in the Waqf law. Current or former district judge, current or former joint secretary level officer, Muslim law scholars no longer included in decision making panel. It is going to be a scientific board, and people can now challenge Waqf Tribunal decisions in the High Court within 90 days. This was something which was not allowed in the past. It is something which should be duly noted and regulated. Waqf property registration and financial records are to be maintained. There are thousands and thousands of properties by the Waqf, but of course there is still confusion over what is what. Supervision of Waqf board activities is also something that the central government is going to get into. The audit of Waqf accounts by the Controller and Auditor General, which is the CAG instead of state auditors, is going to be in fact instituted. A very, very important decision that has been taken. And what changes? The name of the act is obviously renamed. The formation of Waqf allowed by declaration, user or endowment, but this bill says that this removes Waqf by user. Only declaration or endowment allowed. Donors must be practicing Muslims for 5+ years, cannot deny female inheritance, which was the case earlier on as well. The government property as Waqf, the government properties identified as Waqf cease to be Waqf. They will go back to the government. Disputes resolved by the collector who reports to the state. So again, the state will take ownership. Power to determine Waqf provision has been removed. There obviously going to be a huddle which is going to decide whether a particular property can be named Waqf or not. It was done arbitrarily in the past. Survey of Waqf, collectors empowered to conduct surveys as per state revenue law. So obviously the ambit of the state as well as the central government has been greatly increased in this point. The Central Waqf Council is also something which will include 2 non-Muslims, MPs, former judges, eminent persons need to be Muslims. The following members must be Muslims: representatives of Muslim organizations, scholars in Islamic law, chairpersons of Waqf boards of the Muslim members. 2 must be women as well. There's nothing wrong with that. It is something which also promotes diversity and inclusion as well. This is the Waqf Amendment Bill 2024 that we are talking about. The state Waqf boards, state government, they will nominate members including 2 non-Muslims, 1 each from Shia, Sunni, backward class Muslims. Like I said, this was something that was not happening before, which also led to a lot of problems when it came to the concept or the idea of Waqf. The tribunal composition, Muslim law expert has been removed. This includes district court judges, who's going to be the chairman, and a joint secretary from the state government as well. So basically the idea is to give semblance to the way the Waqf has been operating. There was not much clarity in the way, in fact, a number of these properties came upon their possession. What was the modus operandi that was being used? Was it arbitrary? Was it based on orphan properties which nobody wanted to claim, or was the law in fact misrepresented? Well, appeal on tribunal orders are allowed in high courts within 3 months. Powers of central government. Central government, of course, is empowered to make rules on Waqf registration accounts and audits, and separate Waqf boards for sex also allows Bohra and Aga Khani Waqf boards to be a part. This was something that was not happening, and most of these minority communities were not part of this entire process, or shall I say, the Waqf activities. We'll talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the show is Mr. Firoz Bakht Ahmed, former Vice Chancellor of